A bustling crowd of people, multi-story buildings. Everything will work out if you try hard enough. That's the main character's motto. A young man in glasses looks at it all, frightened. He thinks, I don't exist. This is Fujisaki. Yuto, he is 20 years old and has been trying to enroll for the second year. A guy stands in front of a supermarket, frustrated. It didn't work out this time. He thinks he just didn't try hard enough. Frustrated, he goes into the supermarket. Fujisaki thinks he'll definitely pass next year. He sees a hooded man, threatening the cashier with a knife, demanding money. She's terrified. The boy panics, thinking it's a robber. The masked man orders them to move faster and get moving. Fujisaki glances at the cleaning equipment. A man with a mask and a hood shouts why the girl is frozen. The girl is holding her chest in tears. Fujisaki swings his broom behind the robber's back. He hits the robber's hand with the broom, knocking the knife out of his hands. The broom breaks, and the robber clutches his bruised hand. The girl grabs the ladle and throws it at the robber. The ladle hits him right in the face, and Yuto hits the robber again from behind. The robber is in great pain. The villain lies prostrate on the floor, face down. Fujisaki stands over him with a broken broom. The girl behind the cash register. They exchange glances. The cashier thanks Yuto. Their silhouettes are visible in the windows. Fujisaki is very surprised. He looks at the clear sky and asks where he is and if he is in heaven. It is located on a large, white, checkered, floating field. Fujisaki assumes that he has died. He turns around, and behind him is a bald old man with a mustache and wearing loose clothing. The old man says, "You came," and apologizes to the boy. The boy adjusts his glasses and says he doesn't quite understand what's going on. He asks what the old man is apologizing for. The old man says he cast a spell on the three of them, and it's the same as killing them. The boy is very surprised. He says, "So, you." The old man interrupts him and says he is what is called a demigod. He explains that they are in a border world, or, in other words, a step away from paradise. The man explains that he wanted to send divine punishment down on someone in the world he rules, but it somehow ended up in Fujisaki's world. The old man turns away and says he's very sorry. The boy asks what will happen to him now. The demigod smiles and explains that he will use his power to regenerate him. He also says that he will not be able to return the interlocutor to his world, apologizes and explains that he can only be reborn in the world that he controls. He also explains that even his abilities have limitations, so there's little he can do for Yuto. Yuto is frightened. The boy asks what his interlocutor's world is like. The old man happily informs him that it's fantasy, a world of swords and magic. The old man says that now there are many magical creatures and dangerous places there. The boy asks how old he will be when he is reborn, and the old man replies that he will be 0, meaning he will be born as an ordinary human. Fujisaki asks if he will be able to use magic. The demigod thoughtfully informs him that he can, but not all species. The boy is surprised that it's not all species and asks how many there are. The old man explains that there are 4 basic elements: fire, water, wind, earth, and sacred magic. The man says to try saying, "Open your status." The guy says, "Open your status," and a transparent screen appears in front of him. It displays the boy's stats. The demigod explains that this way you can learn more about your abilities. Stats: Fujisaki's rank is 0, and his luck is 30. Innate skills: Lightning Magic S, rank 0. Special skills: Swordsmanship B, Wind Magic A, Holy Magic C, all rank 0. The old man is impressed by the S rank, and he hasn't even bestowed anything yet. He extends his hand and informs them that they don't have much time. The demigod asks one last question. What ability does Fujisaki want to gain? And Fujisaki says, "Okay." The boy replies that he wants a talent where the reward matches the effort. The man with the mustache expresses bewilderment and asks if talent isn't too simple. The guy says it might be simple, but with his luck, even if his level increases, there's a chance his stats won't improve at all. The old man understands this and replies that in that case, He's gifting the guy with an innate talent. This ability increases the experience points gained to level up 3 times that of normal humans. Each ability level increases by 1 point. For a normal person, abilities don't increase by 1 point per level. Excluding luck, the overall increase in attributes typically ranges from 2 to 5. The guy excitedly asks if he can rise faster than the others and asks to give him this ability. The old man explains that he is gifting clairvoyance as a bonus, which will allow one to evaluate other people and objects, sense the flow of magic, and even have night vision, which is quite convenient. Fujisaki asks what will happen to the demigod now. He explains that he has decided to reincarnate the boy, and therefore his existence is coming to an end. He also explains that his doubles will take care of the other 2. Since they are doubles, their strength is roughly half his. And so he can only imbue each of those people with a small amount of power, which he can't quite explain. The old man places his hands on Fujisaki's shoulders. The demigod says he will entrust this to his doubles. Time is running out. A house stands in the night with only one window lit. A newborn baby is crying. It's Fujisaki. Yuto, also known as Mars Bryant. His stats are HP 1 to 1, MP 0 to 0, 1 strength, 1 speed, 1 magic, 1 agility, 1 stamina, 30 luck. Innate skills. Innate talent, clairvoyance, lightning magic. Special skills. Swordsmanship, wind magic, holy magic. Mars is still a baby in a carved wooden crib, crawling diligently, and soon he'll start walking. He uses clairvoyance. Over the past year, he maxed out his mana points. He examined the items. Flowers, a tree, a bowl, a candle. They all had a good status. Mars ran into a medieval-style dining room with a stone floor and a large fireplace. On the table were simple dishes, stew and bread. A man, a girl, and a child were eating at the table, and Mars ran to the child's high chair. His mother gives him a piece of food. The boy's stats: health 2 halves, mana 872 to 873, strength 1, speed 1, magic 3, agility 1, endurance 1, luck 10, innate skills. Innate talent max level and clairvoyance level 3. The boy lies on the bed. He explains that he's exhausted his mana and is tired, so he'll sleep. He opens a translucent screen and sees that his magical power has increased again. He held his hand out. Mars thought he'd soon be able to try using magic. Mars exclaimed, "Thunder!" Nothing happened. He said he knew it wasn't possible yet. Mars folded his arms, crossed his legs, and said he needed to learn how to use magic as soon as possible. The whole family is having dinner. Candles are burning on the table. Mars calls out to Mom and Dad. He asks how to use magic. The parents are very surprised. The mother wonders why the child is asking. He smiles charmingly. Mars says that if he has talent, he wants to try and learn it quickly. The woman says she thinks it's too early for him, and when she teaches Ike, she'll teach Mars too. The child asks, "Even healing magic?" The woman asks why he needs healing magic. He explains that he dreams of healing his mom and dad's wounds. The parents are very surprised. They lean over the table. "Hey, hold on," one says to the other. The woman whispers to the man to test Mars's ability to use sacred magic. It's best for them to determine his magical abilities beforehand. If he can use sacred magic, well, says the father. The mother announces that she and the father need to discuss something important and sends the children to bed early, promising to talk tomorrow. The children agree. The next day, outside, the father announces that he and the mother have decided to teach the children magic, but first they ask Mars to make a promise. The man explains that sacred magic is a rare and valuable form of magic that can heal wounds and illnesses, and says that if Mars can use it, then he and his mother decided it was best not to tell anyone about it. He asked if Mars understood. Mars understood. The father says they'll start with the basics and then determine what kind of magic they're drawn to. He explains that to begin, they need to focus their attention just below the navel. That's where magical power accumulates. The children sit cross-legged on the grass near a stone fence. Their eyes are closed, focused. Father says that now you need to imagine how magical energy circulates throughout the body, and if it doesn't work, even if you have a talent for magic, you won't be able to use it. Mars says he feels energy concentrated in his navel area, but he has difficulty getting it to circulate throughout his body, and needs to force it to move through the body the same way blood does. He is focused. The man reports that they both seem to have done well and that Mars's magical power has increased significantly, and the girl says that all that remains is to find out what type of magic they have. The child asks if they'll determine this with a crystal. The mother says they'll start with Ike and asks to say, reveal status. His father reports that Ike has potential with a sword, a spear, and even fire magic. His mother supports him. Ike is, without exaggeration, a gifted child and could very well become a knight commander. His level is 1, his hit points are 4/4, his mana is 3/3, his strength is 2, his speed is 2, his magic is 1, his agility is 1, his stamina is 2. His special skills include swordsmanship, spearmanship, and fire magic. He is surprised that Mars's mana level is 877, almost 5 times that of his and Maria's mages. His mother calls him a true genius with a predisposition to sacred and wind magic. The next day, his father announces that he has bought a grimoire and shows him 2 books, one depicting wind and the other fire. He says they should both dedicate themselves to them. They are worth 2 gold coins. Maria with Mars on her lap, and Zeke and Ike began to introduce them to the contents of the books. The family stands outside, looking at Mars, Ike cheering for him. Mars stands before them. He contemplates directing the magical power to his fingers, then extends his hand forward, and when it gathers, pronounces the word wind. The boy says it's the wind. The family watches as it creates a strong current of air. The woman says that Mars is a smart guy and everyone hugs him. A year later, Ike and Mars are standing in front of the house. They stand near the stone fence, their eyes closed. They are focused. Mars creates air currents. Ike creates fire from his hands and swings a stick. Mars's stats: 3 HP, 1952/1952 MP, 2 ST, 2 speed, 10 magic, 3 agility, 2 stamina. Special skills: wind magic, a level 5/19. Ike's stats: 6 HP, 40/40 MP, 3 ST, 5 speed, 2 magic, 3 agility, 3 stamina. Special skills: fencing sea level 1/15, fire magic sea level 1/15. The parents arrive in their travel clothes. The father announces their arrival, and the mother calls for Ike and Mars. The children happily run to them. The man announces that he has brought something interesting and says he will show it to her later. The woman laughs. The wind blows the leaves off the trees. Father says, "Good." The family is gathered around a table with a large sack on it. The father pulls out a beautifully painted sword. It's the fire spirit sword, also known as the salamander sword, with 30 attack and a special skill in the form of magic too. Mars is amazed and thinks that simply holding the sword increases its wielder's magical power. The man announces that he is giving the sword to Ike. Ike thanks his father. The man pulls a book out of his bag for Mars, hands it to him, and tells him to study it thoroughly. 2 stars are depicted on the cover. Mars exclaims that it is a grimoire of sacred magic for beginners. Mars thanks his father. He practices healing at night. He failed to use it yesterday, but if he puts his mind to it, he can do it. He practices outside again. Mars says healing, and the ball lights up in his outstretched hand. He's glad he did it. Mars shares his achievement with his brother and asks why he doesn't use the salamander sword. The boy replies that his father told him to learn the basics first, so he uses this sword. Mars replies, "I see," and reflects on Ike's seriousness. The brothers' names are called. They turn around and are very surprised. They see their battered parents standing before them, their mother helping their father walk. The children run toward them, asking if they're okay. The father says the monster in the dungeon gave him a hard time and asks for a wet towel. The woman apologizes for bothering them. Mars asks them to wait. His mother asks his father if he's okay. Mars thinks his father's wounds are more serious than his mother's. The boy puts his hands out in front of him, and his father asks what he's doing. The boy shouts, healing. His father is very surprised. Mars repeats, healing. He sighs and wipes the sweat from his brow. Then he heals his mother. His parents are as good as new again. Mars asks if they have any more wounds. Father says he is grateful to Mars that everything is okay now. The woman thanks him and notes that Mars has already learned to heal, after which she hugs him. Ike laughs. Mom hugs Mars. The man stands to the side and looks at them. The family gathers around the table with hot tea. The father proposes a family meeting to discuss the children's future. He asks if the two of them would like to help with the work, but not right away, but in a year. He'll make a decision after Ike and Mars grow up. Father says he'll do his best to make them stronger, and Ike happily agrees. The fire crackles in the fireplace. Father adds that he has one more thing he wanted to tell the boys. The man says that they will soon have a little brother or sister. The woman laughs. Ike is delighted, and Mars is very surprised. A year has passed. The brothers are training swords with each other outside. Mars and Ike are fighting with swords. A current of air surrounds Mars. Ike lands a powerful blow and Mars parries it. Then they attack each other simultaneously, colliding mid-air. A lot has happened over the past year. Mars's stats: 4 of 4 HP, 2584/2585 MP, 3 STR, 4 speed, 18 magic, 7 agility, 3 stamina. Special skills: Swordsmanship B level 1/17, Wind Magic A level 5/19, Holy Magic C level 2/15. Ike stats: 12/12 HP, 70-70 MP, 8 STR, 9 speed, 3 magic, 6 agility, 8 stamina. Special skills: Swordsmanship C level 5/15, Spearmanship B level 1/17. Mars announces that Ike has learned to use a magic sword. The family watches as Ike swings the flaming sword. The door opens and Mars says that the most important thing was the birth of Lena's little sister. The baby coos joyfully in her crib. Her stats: HP 1/1, MP 0/0, Strength 1, Speed 1, Magic 1, Agility 1, Stamina 1, Luck 10. Special skills: Water Magic D and Earth Magic E. The whole family calls the baby a cutie. The family gathers around the table for a cup of tea. The man announces that a year has passed and explains that both have grown more than he expected. He says that starting tomorrow, he and Ike will head outside the city and clear the area of monsters a bit. Everyone listens attentively. Father says that he would like Mars to support them with his sacred magic and also wants to hear everyone's opinion. Ike says he's been training hard up until this day and wants to go, and that he wants to come with them. His mother agrees, but says she's worried. She says maybe they'll take him, he'll heal their wounds, and she's sure the battle will be peaceful with him by her side. But Mars is only 3 years old. The woman rises from the table. His mother says that while he may be a gifted child, she still thinks it's too early for him to participate in something like this. She sits back down, grabs a mug of hot tea, and explains that it's too early for Ike too. She'd like to go, but then Lena will be alone. She asks what Mars will say. Everyone turns their eyes to him. The boy says that he wants to go with his father and Ike. Mars says he understands what Mom is talking about. Mom sighs. She says that then the 3 of them should go together. She asks them not to stray too far and to avoid areas saturated with magic. She explains that since they are still children, they won't be able to use equipment, so they should be prepared for anything. She explains that a situation might arise in which healing won't work and warns them to remember to bring potions. Then the mother says she's counting on the father, and he gets up from the table and urges them to rely on him. A father and his children are outside, emerging from the courtyard of a house. The man says they look ready to go. Mars waves to his mother, who is seeing them off on their hike. She warns them to take care of themselves and asks them to be careful and not overdo it. A street, a tavern. Ike and Mars are waiting near the guild building. People are walking past. Mars says he's never seen children other than them before. A boy and girl are laughing nearby. Mars is watching closely. The father approaches them, apologizes for the delay, and announces that he has accepted a mission to kill monsters. He tells them to go ahead. They walk further down the street. The tree branches sway. They approached a guarded gate, flanked by 2 armored guards. Their father announced that they were headed this way. The brothers ran forward through the gate, their father remaining behind. They stop. Mars is very happy. In front of them is a long road among the hills. In the distance the forest and mountains are visible. The wind carries leaves. Father stops and says he didn't expect them to get there so quickly. Mars notices strange sounds in the forest near the road. These are 3 unusual creatures. Mars is surprised by the goblins. The goblins laugh and chatter among themselves. Stats: 20 to 20 health, 1 to 1 mana, 7 strength. For speed, 1 magic, 1 agility, 6 stamina, and 1 luck. The goblins notice the father and children. They start running towards them. Father tells Ike he'll show him how, and Ike should try to kill the last one. Father insists Ike should be able to kill him with fire, but advises keeping his sword at the ready, just in case. He says, "Watch and learn," and uses magic to direct several stones. The man says, "Stone projectiles?" and throws them at the 3 creatures at the same time. The man asks Ike if he's ready, and Ike replies yes. The rocks hit 2 goblins and a third runs toward Ike. Ike raises his hands forward, preparing to attack, as the creature approaches him. The boy shouts fire and unleashes a fire attack on the creature. The man reports that the job was well done, and they then head to the charred area. The man tells him not to forget to pick up the magic stone after defeating the monster, then explains to take it to the guild where they'll buy it, and also tells him to make sure the monster's corpses are burned, otherwise it will be problematic if they turn into undead. Mars tells Dad that next time. The man says that wind magic can't defeat monsters, so no. He says he's using a wind blade, not the wind. The guy is surprised that Mars has already mastered the wind blade. Mars says he learned how to use it while trying out different wind tricks. The guy says, "Let's try it then." The boy calls out to Mars. The goblins notice him approaching. He announces that he'll strike right after the boy. The boy explains that as soon as the goblins are in range, they should use their wind blade. He tells Ike to try to defeat the last one with his sword. Ike replies that he understands. Mars says wind blade, and the man says understood. Mars fires an energy projectile that strikes approaching creatures. A guy says hello. A man with a racket hits a ball. A guy hits his opponent in the head. Mars says they both did a good job. The man suggests killing a few more goblins and heading home, to which the boy and Mars respond that it's good. The sounds of fighting and screaming can be heard. The guy screams as he attacks. Mars focuses on striking with his hand. A man reports that he has died. The guy looks in surprise at the burning fire that he summons with his hand, and Mars informs him that his level has increased, showing new characteristics. The man says it's time to go home and congratulates Ike. He congratulates Ike and claps his hands. Ike agrees. The image shows a landscape with a house against a backdrop of mountains and trees. There is no text or speech. Mars says he can't wait for his level to rise. Mars eats. Mars lies in bed. He says he's definitely going to level up today. The goblin men are laughing, and 3 people are watching in the background. The man says that they are not people but goblins, and explains that they cannot speak. Mars says he doesn't intend to kill them, but wants them to leave. He explains that if they don't leave, he will be forced to use force. He says he's leveled up and expresses surprise. A window appears with information about leveling up and stats. The man comments that leveling up must be hard, and the other man congratulates him. Mars says that there aren't too many goblins here and yet. He reports that they killed about 100 goblins yesterday and today and asks if they're running into them too often. The man says that's not normal and says he'll report it to the guild. The man reports that recently a lot of monsters have been appearing in Almeria, which adventurers are tirelessly clearing out, and explains that due to a shortage of people, the guild has issued a specific quest. The boy says it'll be a dangerous expedition, so he'd like to hear some opinions. Mars says he can help if there are only goblins there. The girl explains that she doesn't think there will only be goblins there and warns that if a stronger monster appears, it will be dangerous. The boy says he thinks so. He says he's still not strong enough, so he'll pass. A boy asks his dad to postpone an assignment. A man and a woman sit silently at the table. Mars says okay, let's put the named quest on hold. Then he suggests, as usual, killing monsters and gaining experience. The man agrees. The man says that one kobold is nothing, but the guy says that a whole crowd is already a problem. The guy orders the enemies to be destroyed. Laughing, Mars kicks him. A multitude of monsters rush forward. The guy fights off the monsters, striking them. He delivers a powerful kick, knocking the monsters back. A month later, Mars says he's leveled up. The guy says it's time to go home. He says the fire is burning well and that they can go now. The man says that they should move on. Mars says it's time to talk about the celestial eye. Mars says he can now use the analysis. Mars addresses mom and dad. A woman and a man simultaneously express surprise. A guy asks Mars if he can see everyone's statuses. Mars confirms and says he can even see the status of objects. The guy calls Mars daddy. And another guy says it's amazing and notes that their child is truly amazing. He says he thinks there are too many goblins there. The man says it might be a good idea to figure out what's going on. The woman says she thinks that's a good idea too. The man explains that it sounds good. The boy says they both grew up quickly. The man says he'll pick up the personal assignment tomorrow, to which the boy says yes. The man tells the woman that they were thanked for agreeing to do the assignment. The woman tells them to be careful and take care of themselves. Mars asks what lies to the west if you follow this road and reports that there is a mine there that was abandoned long before his birth. A man notices a horse-drawn carriage approaching. The guy calls out to everyone and the crowd agrees. Then the guy abruptly sets his feet on the ground. The guy reports that Ike first threw fire at the center where the goblins were gathered. The goblins reacted to the fire with fear. The boy asks why the others immediately rushed at them. The men with spears run forward. The boy looks at them with confidence. Mars reports that he and his father then set about destroying them. The next panel shows Mars and the man attacking a group of creatures together. He says the level has increased and shows the stats of level 16 with increased stats. He reports that they've collected a lot of magic stones. The guy calls the man to come here. The guy explains what it is. Mars says it looks like a pumpkin. The man explains that the plant is called a pumpkin. He says the door is big and the man asks what it is. The doors open slowly with a characteristic creak. A man with a club expresses surprise at a loud noise outside the door, revealing a large, malevolent-looking creature. The boy and Mars are also surprised by what's happening. He explains that these are hobgoblins. They are tenacious and resilient. The creature's stats are shown. Health 50 out of 50, 1 Omni, Strength 25, Speed 18, Magic 1, Dexterity 1, Endurance 26, Luck 1. The guy tells them to destroy the goblins first, and then deal with the hobgoblin. The guy orders them to understand. The guy rushes forward with his sword, and Mars releases a blast of energy. The guy runs toward the goblins. The goblin hits his chest, then screams and scratches his chest with his claws. The goblin states that he cannot allow Mars to pass and warns that if he comes close, he will kill him. A boy runs with a sword in his hand. He strikes a creature with sharp claws and teeth, which covers its face with its hands and screams. The guy says it's a good result. Mars tells him there's a huge magic stone in front of him. Mars explains that it's a labyrinth, and if the goblins escape, it'll be a serious problem, and if it's full of monsters and they start crawling out, it'll be the worst possible scenario. He asks what they'll do and suggests they take a look around. He says that if there are goblins there, they can report that they might be coming out of here. Mars says good. The man says he'll inspect the area and turn back. He says that this is the place where all the records are kept and warns that no one should go in. The man says that 3 guards are guarding the entrance and that they will not allow anyone to pass. 3 hooded men with staffs express confusion. The text states that they each have 29 health, 24 mana, 10 strength, 6 speed, 15 magic, 6 agility, 6 stamina, 1 luck and a special skill Earth Magic, level 1 out of 5. The man says that these are goblin mages and explains that they use magic, so eliminating them is troublesome. Mars tells them to destroy them before they cast their spell and urges them to act quickly. Mars, the boy, and another man run forward with weapons in hand. 3 hooded creatures with staffs look surprised. He kicks the masked man. The guy and he simultaneously launch swift attacks. The boy says it's a treasure chest. The man explains that the chest is broken. The guy warns Mars to check the chest with an analysis, as it could be a trap. Mars says he understands. The chest says its contents are luck-based. He says that it doesn't seem to be a trap and that the contents depend on luck points. The man tells Mars to come over and open the chest. Mars says he understands. The man says that they are reporting to the guildmaster. The man asks if the children are coming too, and the woman replies that they will be coming too. Mars tells Zig that he did a good job. The man asks who these children are. The man says his name is Ralph Sargent. The boy says his name is Ike. Bryant. Nice to meet you. Mars says it's nice to meet you too. The man explains that his sons are Ike and Mars. The man says they came to talk about the quest. A man reports that a building in an abandoned village has turned into a labyrinth. The man says that a hobgoblin and goblin mages have been seen there. Mars says the labyrinth is just starting to expand, and if it continues like this, there will be no end to the problems. The man shouts back that he reports that he will report this to Count Carmel. The boy says he'd like to register the children as adventurers, adding that there's one more thing. Mars stands silently nearby. The guy says that he was accompanied in exploring the labyrinth, and if it weren't for them, he wouldn't have learned so much. The guy tells him that Ike wields a sword, a spear, and fire magic, while Mars can use wind magic. The man asks if the guy is sure, since they're still kids, and clarifies whether this is true. He says yes, and the man screams. The man says he will register Ike and Mars as adventurers, and immediately confirms this with a resounding yes. The guy says that he is also very happy, and Mars says that he is also very happy. He says thank you very much. The guy screams and Mars screams back. The guy says that Mars can't be defeated, brother, and that he will become much stronger than him, he says that nothing of the sort. The boy greets Mars. Mars tells him that Dad is back. Mars explains that he'll talk about the reward first, then explains that the 3 of them will get it, so they'll split it between the 3 of them. The guy says the fire bracelet is enough for him. He explains that he would like to learn earth magic, and it would be enough if the guy helps with it. The woman says he's up to his usual tricks and says, okay, she'll teach him earthbending. The man laughs, covering his face with his hand. The boy and girl stare at them silently. The guy says he has something else besides the E-rank adventurer cards and shows them. He explains that the guildmaster and Count Carmel have requested their assistance and want them to join another adventurer in exploring the labyrinth. The woman says that she should agree. The guy says that he thinks so too. Mars says that he. The man says that it is good and offers to take on the job. A caravan of horse-drawn carts moves along the road, and a group of people walks alongside. A fortress on a hill and a crowd of people can be seen in the distance. The text message states that 6 months have passed. Mars says they had a great catch today, and the guy suggests they come back for lunch. The man thanks Zig for his work. The top right corner states that this is the D-rank group Blue Fong. In the top right, a man with long hair explains his thanks for looking after a girl. The girl in the bottom right smiles and thanks for looking after her. A man with a staff stands next to him, and a woman in a hat holds. The image shows the house of Baron Bryant. Mars says everyone is ready. The guy says they're moving out. Mars speaks to Ike, turning to him, and asks if the 2 of them can handle it. The man says yes. The man reports a sound like a rumble. Mars and the boy rush forward at full speed, with a group of goblins chasing after them. The boy hits him with a stick. The man says he can't afford to lose. A young man delivers a swift sword strike to a group of monsters, knocking them down. To the bottom right, a hooded man fires a powerful energy beam from his hands, directing it at the monsters standing behind him. The guy throws a powerful roundhouse kick that sends the other man flying backwards. Mars says he's not going to give up and begins to rapidly rotate his fist. The hooded men are surprised and react. He says that he can't afford to lose and says that now he will show what he is capable of. Mars looks at the orc. The orc raises his hand to strike. Mars jumps and kicks the orc in the leg. He says to aim for the eyes. The ogre covers his face with his hands and screams in pain. Mars runs towards him. Mars stabs him with a spear. He throws a spear at the monster, who opens his mouth and makes a loud noise. The man and he stand at a distance from each other. The man tells Mars that the treasure chest is open. The boy says it's a fire spear with 20 attack power. The man says wow. The boy looks at the closed door at the end of the hallway. The man says they'll rest in a safe area. The guy says he can finally relax today, and the man says it really is. The girl says they can eat in peace, and Mars eats a sandwich. He reports that he has reached level 8 and lists his stats. Health 41 out of 46, magical energy 3,902 out of 4,528, strength 29, agility 32, magical power 57, flexibility 47 and endurance 28, all of which have increased. He lies on the ground and sleeps with a second floor. A man and a woman prepare to fight giant creatures. The man with a spear stands in the center. The woman with a sword stands next to him. The man and woman in the center of the stage interact with the creatures, preparing to attack. The girl says they will win. The man says they won't lose. The boy explains they won't give up. Mars says they will definitely win. The scene depicts sound effects that convey intense noise or movement, without the participation of characters or speech. There is a lock with 2 rings on the door, and torches are burning on the sides. The goblin announces that he is a goblin general and his stats are shown. 72 of 72 HP, 1 of 1 MP, 35 strength, 25 agility, 1 magic power, 1 flexibility, 38 endurance, 1 luck. Mars looks at him in surprise. The man says that this means the Goblin King is waiting for them at the very end, adding that this is a fairly beginner-friendly dungeon. He says that today will be the first time they'll see them fight together, and the woman asks the boys to watch carefully. Mars announces the spell Earth Fortress, and the girl announces the spell Ice Fortress. A man in armor screams and chases a group of goblins. The robot raises its axe and strikes at the creature, which is surrounded by other creatures that are approaching 2 glowing domes. The goblin strikes 2 shells with his axes. The girl and Mars are talking now. He and the boy are looking at a knight in armor who is being attacked by many goblins with spears and clubs. The boy and Mars look on in surprise. In the foreground, a man in armor deflects numerous arrows flying in his direction. The guy makes a noise of effort, clasping his hands together in front of him. A man makes a sound of surprise or fear. In the top panel, a man falls face down to the ground among many fallen bodies. In the bottom panel, Mars and a woman holding staff smile, Mars asking how she is doing. The guy says it was great, the girl laughs, the man and girl listen. The image states that this is the labyrinthine city of Grantham. The girl says it's cute and pets the animal, which is trembling. The boy runs and tells Clarissa about the problem, and she looks at him questioningly. The boy reports that there are 4 wounded people in the room and explains that they can't get out of bed. The girl explains that they need to wait until they recover. The knight reports that he cannot move, and the demon explains that it is magic that paralyzes the body. Mars informs you that the spawn room is for goblin generals and explains that even if you kill them, they will come back to life. The man tells her to gain experience here, and the girl wishes her luck. The man says to defeat everyone alone. He and the man prepare to fight a group of knights. Mars says yes. The goblins prepare to attack, clutching their clubs in their hands. He attacks the knight, jumping over his sword and striking. In the next panel, he continues the fight, dodging the blow and counterattacking. Mars strikes his opponent with his sword. He then leaps with his sword raised, preparing to attack. At the bottom right, it states that a year has passed. He says they're moving on. The man says they did a great job. Mars announces that they are on the 3rd floor. The man, the girl, and the boy silently stare ahead. He says it looks like the boss's room. Mars speaks forward. The man explains. The man opens the door. The man, a boy, and a girl stand before a throne guarded by 2 knights. The Goblin Lord reports that he has 108 out of 108 health, 21 out of 21 mana, 60 strength, 42 agility, 5 magic power, 1 flexibility, and 63 stamina. A man sits on a throne, leaning his hand on a sword and supporting his head with the other hand. The Goblin King has 150 of 150 HP, 31 of 31 MP, 82 strength, 53 dexterity, 5 magic power, 4 flexibility, 74 endurance, and special skills that increase regeneration and summon monsters. Mars says the Goblin King uses magic. He says, "Dad, Mom." The guy and Mars demand to be left alone. The guy tells them that if they don't kill the monster, it will kill them all. The man explains that the monster can't be killed with conventional weapons, and he says that magic is needed to defeat it. Mars says that if he fails to win, he will die, but if he wins, he can return home. The man explains that in that case, he will die too, and suggests that Mars surrender. He attacks the man with a sword, the man parries the blow with an axe, and he prepares for the next move. The man smiles. The man and he take up fighting positions facing each other. Mars says he can't let them pass and tells them they must fight. The man explains that this is their last chance to stop the enemy. He delivers a series of blows to the demon, and the man simultaneously attacks him with 2 spears. Mars deflects the demon's attack, protecting the other guy. The guy takes aim and shoots the demon in the stomach. The demon smirks and raises his sword, clutching the hilt. A guy strikes a demon with horns with a sword. The demon deflects the attack with his sword. The guy looks at the demon with tension. Mars tells him that if he can't win, he will die, and explains that he has no choice but to fight. The man says he has no intention of killing Mars and says he wants to test his strength. The guy says he let his guard down. The man yells "Ick," and the girl and guy run toward him. Mars says he'll heal his brother now. Then Mars asks if that means he won't be allowed to heal him. The horned man leaps forward and strikes. The ogre prepares to attack with a large sword. He announces that he will then fight him alone. Mars deflects the demon's blow with his sword, then winces with effort. He throws the sword down. The demon strikes the ground, causing a crack. The demon informs him that it's a trap and warns that if he steps on it, he will die. He explains that he knows about it and is ready to fight. Mars says that if he fails to win, he will die, but if he wins, he can return home. The man says he doesn't intend to kill Mars, but only wants to test his strength. He says that he can't let her go and tells her that he will kill her now. In the right panel, a man grips the hilt of a sword. The left panel depicts the movement of a sword. The monster says he can't lose because he's stronger. Mars says he's not going to give up and is ready to fight to the end. He says that if he can't win, he will die, and asks not to feel sorry for him. He explains that he can't allow himself to die because he has a goal that he must fulfill. The demon says he can't believe Mars was able to defeat him. He says that if he can't win, he will die. He says that he can't afford to die. Mars says it looks like the other person has used up all their mana. He announces that the title has been earned. He explains that the Wind King title is awarded to those who are among the top 10 wind mages in the world, while the Goblin Slayer title increases attack power and defense when fighting goblins, and if after receiving this title someone else fulfills the title's conditions. The woman says that Mars and another man cleared the dungeon together and praises Mars. Mars reports that he has received the titles Wind King and Goblin Slayer. The man is surprised that he even has titles and says that this is amazing, Mars. The building in the background states that this is the labyrinthine city of Grantham. Inside, 3 people are sitting at a table eating. A woman asks Clarissa if she'll go with them today, and a man warns her not to overexert herself. The girl says she's going, and Mars replies that it's good. He says this is a treatment. The guy thanks him as always, and Mars replies that you're welcome. The text block says there have been a lot of patients lately. The girl says that the next one. A woman reports that a kobold was seen in town this morning. A man asks if it's true, and the woman explains that she doesn't think there's any need to worry about the labyrinth being saturated. The girl talks about the saturation of the labyrinth. The woman reports that the room is warm. The girl says that she is very pleased and that she is happy. The girl says the water in this pool is very hot and warns against staying in it for too long. The man explains that it's a healing spring and advises against overdoing it. Mars explains that after bathing in such water, the body feels lighter and more relaxed. The girl says that it's so good. The girl says it was very good, then notices a cat meowing. The girl says that the number of monsters in the labyrinth is predetermined. It is reported that for some reason the number of monsters continues to grow. They simply do not fit inside and come out. The man reports that this is called saturating the labyrinth. The man asks if the girl understood. Mars replies that she did. The woman reports that to some extent. Mars says there's no need to worry, and the man explains that this rarely happens. He says, "You better eat already." And the girl thanks him for the treatment. The man says it's delicious and the girl enjoys the food. The commander reports that today they will also go hunting monsters to prevent the labyrinth from becoming saturated. The man says that they are the knightly order of Count Beetle and will do everything possible for the common people and the Count. The knights report that they are ready for battle. The sound of knocking comes from the closed door. A row of knights with spears expresses bewilderment. Mars also expresses bewilderment. Mars announces that the gates are closed. The guy stands with his back to the crowd of aggressive creatures that rush forward with open mouths and claws. The boy expresses surprise. The man says not to be afraid, supporting another man. A crowd of people at the gate screams, and a group of armed men stands opposite them. The knight orders the formation to be held, while a crowd of goblins advances on him and his comrades. A man reports that it's trouble. A man reports that it's the same. A man reports from the tower. A man announces that the labyrinth is full and that an immediate evacuation is required, while another man rings a bell. A man reports hearing a knock. Another man is surprised and asks what's going on. The man with the mustache says something tensely, and the man on the left runs, expressing alarm. The man says something terrible seems to have happened. The man tells Clarissa to run home. Clarissa says, "Daddy, Mommy." Mars says he's a wounded adventurer and asks if anyone can help. Then Mars clenches his fist and lowers his head. The woman says that she is already on her way, and he confirms this with the word yes. Mars punches a man with ears, and another man punches the same man with ears. A man with a sword and shield explains that they can't let the goblins get any further. A man with a fist says they need to hold the line, and a man with black hair says they're ready to fight. The goblins surround the humans, preparing to attack. The man with the mustache says thank you. The man with the book says yes to her too. The woman says okay. The guy says thank you. The man says the little girl is working so hard and they can't let it slip. The men with pointed ears and fangs watch intently. A boy reports that goblins are coming. A man explains that there are many of them. A girl and a man with a shield prepare for battle. A man with a mustache expresses surprise. A group of men and women rush forward, and a man in the front row announces that they must leave immediately because the situation is becoming dangerous. The guy reports that there's also an army of monsters here. The men defend themselves from the attacking monsters. The man with short hair explains that they should run. The man with a mustache says that they should keep up, and the guy with short hair says that everyone should stick together while the group of people runs forward. The man says there are monsters here too and asks for help. The man says he'll stay here, and the others should help the others. The man screams that he doesn't understand what's happening. The man screams that they have no other choice. Then the man suddenly steps on the floor with his foot and screams. Mars says there's treatment. Mars hopes Mom and Dad are okay. The man warns her not to let him get any closer and says they're on their way. Mars calls Clarissa. The girl says, "Daddy." A man and a woman walk together, the woman holding the man's hand. Mars says, "Wait, I'll cure you now." The man says no need. He says it's better to treat the adventurers. The man says it's now. The girl says, "But." The guy screams that he has a more serious wound and he's first. Another guy demands to be treated first. The third guy screams that it hurts, it hurts. The guy on the right says he's first. The guy next to him demands he be healed first, and the guy on the left tells him to shut up and says he's first. The woman reports that they are on the road. The man says that the aristocrats should be treated first, points to his elbow, and asks for it to be done faster. The girl remains silent. Mars says it's just a small bruise. He says he'll cure her later. The girl says it's more important to cure the adventurers now. The man says there's no need to worry so much and pats the girl on the head. The girl remains silent. The boy says that if they can't find a way to stop this, everyone will die, and the girl explains that they have no choice but to fight. The man says they must unite and act together, and the woman says that fear won't help them survive. The man says he can't afford to lose his daughter and asks her to let him go. Mars says he doesn't intend to harm the child. The man says he's sorry. He yells at his dad. The man asks if he dares to interfere. The man says it's his daughter. The girl screams, "Daddy!" Mars pronounces the cure, then repeats the cure with greater force. Mars and the woman pronounce the cure, with Mars leaning over the recumbent man. The girl says it's useless. She's out of mana. The man tells them that their punishment will be death. Mars shouts at them to die and repent. The man explains that this isn't just a fight, but a battle for survival. The man explains that if you lose, you die. The man explains that there are no rules and no mercy here. Mars says he can't let them go and tells them that if they want to live, they must surrender. The man with the sword explains that they have no intention of surrendering and that their goal is freedom. Mars explains that freedom is an illusion and warns that only death follows. A man raises his sword, preparing to strike a girl standing next to another girl. Then he suddenly covers the man's face with his hand and delivers a powerful blow to his stomach. Mars says he won't allow anyone to harm the girls and explains that he will do everything to protect them. The girls look at Mars with gratitude and hope. He says that if he can't win, he will die. A woman, a man with a bandage on his arm, a man with a beard, a girl, and a man in a simple suit express surprise. Mars says he can't believe this happened and that he didn't expect such an outcome. The girl explains that they must help the victims, and the man says they need to call a doctor as soon as possible. He says it's treatment. He explains that he'll now begin treating the man. The man says, "Like this." Mars stands with a sword, and a sleeping guy lies nearby. The image contains no text or speech, only images of buildings. The man with the mustache says he didn't expect this. The man with the slicked back hair says it's awful, and the woman and the other men around her say it's impossible and scary. The girl says this boy is amazing. Mars reports that he single-handedly defeated all the goblins. The crowd says it's great and thanks Mars. He stands with his back to the crowd, scratching his head. At the bottom left, men in armor are riding horses. A horse's leg is shown at the top left. The crowd reports that the count has been beaten. Mars explains that there is one more task and asks them to follow him. The man asks what the situation is and how many are injured. The man reports that the count is beaten. A man reports that he's injured, that he was attacked and wounded, and asks to be treated first. Mars explains that the seriously injured need to be treated first, and that the bruise can be delayed. Baron Dames tells him to keep quiet, but he says that he is an aristocrat. The man says he is surprised. The man says it's all because of him. The man says thank you very much. Mars says he didn't do anything wrong and replies that there's no reason. The man says that he surprised them so much, he is young but already strong, and says that he is the same age as him, which is amazing. He thinks, is it really? Mars thanks her again for her help, then thanks her in bigger words. The man notices that the girl speaks Japanese. He says that she was able to be reborn and says that he is so happy. He explains that he finally found her. The man says that then. Mars reveals that his name is Fujisaki Yudo, he's 20 years old, and here his name is Mars Bryant and he's 7 years old. Aoyayano Koji says she's also 20 years old. But here she's Claris and she's also 7 years old. He says he can't believe it happened and reports that it was unexpected. The man and woman in the background express surprise. Mars says he's just a little surprised and apologizes. Grey Rumpert explains his name is Grey Rumpert. Irina says her name is Irina, and Clarissa says her name is Clarissa. The man asks if she has a minute. Inside the house, he says he's now in the labyrinthine city of Grantham, located in the east of the kingdom of Zarkum. The man asks how he ended up here. A man reports that in one of the rooms he discovered a wall that emanated magical power. Mars says he senses that the wall is magical. The man explains that while he was examining it, he says his hand is stuck and he can't get it out, so he'll just try to go inside. The man says he has a crystal that can be used to determine his location. Mars asks to pick him up quickly and reminds him not to forget to report this to his father. He reports that when he was sucked in, he ended up here. The guy says it's because their kingdoms are at war. The man explains that that's it. The guy invites Mars to stay with them. The woman tells Mars that they will show their hospitality. The girl asks if she can talk to Mars. Mars thanks her and says it was very helpful. The woman calls Mars Daddy. Mars says it's good that the girl remembered his name. The man says, "Of course." The girl then tells him. The man looks at the girl questioningly. The guy asks if they can talk here. The girl invites Mars to go to her room. Mars and the girl are sitting on the bed. The girl asks what he saw then. He says he can't believe she's really here. The girl says she came to help. Mars explains that the robber is also in this world and warns against speaking Japanese in public. The girl and Mars listen to the sounds. The girl and he turn sharply to the window. Mars says the goblins have appeared again. Mars looks at the goblins, then squeezes the girl's hand. Mars says he's ready. He says he will go to help. The girl is surprised and says he's from a hostile country. Mars explains that people are the same everywhere. The girl says she will protect everyone and him in particular. He thanks her. He hugs the girl. The man says he didn't expect to see Mars here and says he came to pick him up. The woman says she's glad to see Mars. The man reports that it looks like the goblins have appeared again, and the woman listens silently. The man asks if Mars is sure, because if they find out he's from a hostile country, they won't be able to protect him. Mars says he'll go. He says he is ready for it. Mars runs down the street with a sword in his hand. Then he stands in front of a closed door. In the next scene, Mars runs at full speed with a sword on his back. He says that he asks for forgiveness. The man says he'll deal with the theft later and orders them to leave now and not interfere. Mars reveals that he stole Dam's sword. The knight asks the count to take his time and reports that this boy single-handedly defeated all the goblins. He is surprised and says that this boy. Mars says that's what he was planning to do and won't miss the opportunity to help. The armored man asks if it would be okay if Mars were to lend them his strength. He says another one has fallen. In the next panel, he punches the opponent in the face. Blair announces that this is the end. Mars informs him that if he retreats, the locals will suffer. The man stomps on the ground with his sword. He says he's ready to die here, but he'll stop them. Then he breathes heavily. The masked man raises his hand, and he stands before him with a sword, surrounded by others in armor. Mars says it was painful, but he won't give in. Then Mars raises his fist and prepares to attack. He runs and kicks a group of creatures standing behind the fence. He says this is the final blow, and at the same time he says it's a technique. The man in armor looks at what's happening in surprise. Mars reports that the goblins have been destroyed and orders everyone to remain calm. Two knights thank Mr. Swordsman for saving them. One of them exclaims that they are saved. He tells them to return, as the count is waiting for them. The crowd proclaims, "Long live the swordsman." Mars and the knights approach the crowd. The man says that the swordsman saved the city and thanks him, and also says that they will deal with Baron Dams later, but now it is more important to discuss the reward. Mars says good. The man says he thanks her on behalf of the city and explains that he's the local guildmaster. A man asks if he will tell you his name. He says that his name is He. A man asks if there is a way to stop the labyrinth from being saturated. Another man approaches the guildmaster and asks what kind of way. The man says he can be stopped by conquering the labyrinth, but asks when he will be conquered. The man reports that the country is currently at war and is short-handed, and the conquest is not making any progress. Mars says he understands and then he will conquer it. The man with the mustache reports that even a group of 4 C-rank adventurers didn't return from there, and the man standing nearby says it's too dangerous to go alone. He explains that he'll go then, and the girl orders him to take her along. The man says it's too dangerous to go into the labyrinth with him, even though the girl possesses holy magic. The girl explains that leaving things as they are is even more dangerous. Mars says he'll go with him so they have a better chance of success. He asks to let her go with him. The man objects, but another man explains that the situation is urgent and he will do everything he can to support Mars. The first man agrees. The man asks what Mars wants as a reward. Mars says he wants the protection of the Rampart family. The girl expresses surprise. The man says that he and Clarissa explained the problems they had with the nobleman and turns to Dams. Dams says he understands and guarantees their safety, and thanks them. The image contains no characters or text, only houses against the sky. The man with the mustache says the kids are amazing, and the other man confirms it. The man with the mustache asks Victor to ask Mars to register as an adventurer, to which Victor says good. The guy says good and asks him to keep an eye on Clarice, and the woman agrees. The text states that Mars says he wants to get home quickly, so he needs to conquer the labyrinth, but he will worry about the city and Clarice if he leaves. The man asks to be replaced. He says he must make Clarice stronger, explaining that if Clarice becomes stronger and conquers the labyrinth, she will achieve great things. The next day, Mars informs her that before conquering the labyrinth, the girl must become stronger, and he will first evaluate her abilities. The girl replies that this is fine. Mars activates the Heavenly Eye ability. He says he can't believe she has talent for barrier magic. He explains that he'll start with something he knows he can do. The girl says she doesn't know how to use barrier magic. He explains that he's not a swordsman at all, but a mage who uses wind magic, and adds. The girl says yes it is. Mars asks what's the fastest way to become stronger. The girl replies that working harder than everyone else is an option, but first, she needs to defeat the goblin. Mars says the answer is practice. The girl thinks the sword is so heavy and doubts she can handle it, wondering how to do it. A woman screams as the creature kicks her, causing her to fall backwards. The woman reports that she is safe. Mars asks if she is safe, and the woman confirms that she is safe. He says he can go alone and asks if the girl can change her mind. The girl explains that when her father wanted to kill that nobleman, she couldn't do anything. He says that even though it will be hard for him, the girl says she wants to become stronger so she can protect her family. Mars tells her to get used to the weight of the sword, and the girl agrees. Mars explains that now. The girl says she can, repeating this twice, and prepares to attack. He strikes the enemy. The enemy screams in pain and looks determinedly. Mars says the work was wonderful. Clarice kneels down, sword in hand, and explains that it's like a weight has been lifted off her shoulders. Mars is surprised and asks what happened. The text explains that this is Clarice taking the first step, quickly becoming stronger. She trained every day until she could firmly. He reports that along with the various bows, she also collected better equipment, pointing out a magical bow and arrows with +2 magic power and +1 dexterity, as well as a mysterious ankle bracelet with +2 magic power that restores HP when moving. Mars reports that recently people have been coming to the clinic even from other cities, and the girl says that there are many more people she doesn't know. He says that nothing and asks not to pay attention. The girl asks what's wrong with him. He is surprised and notices someone's gaze, but doesn't see anyone. The girl says it's better to go to a restaurant today and eat meat to restore her strength. Mars agrees. He says that if they can't find a way, they will die. He explains that if they can't find a way, they will die. Mars informs her that the girl should now have enough strength to defeat the goblin general alone. The girl explains that she should keep her distance from larger opponents. He says he can't afford to relax because the enemy is approaching. The man explains that his task is to protect this passage. The girl says she will blind him and shoots an arrow from her bow. The man says he will then make you lose your balance. The man screams in pain as he is hit in the eye. The girl shouts that she won and rejoices. Mars congratulates her and says he knew she could do it. The girl thanks Mars, explains that thanks to him she has become stronger, and says thank you. Mars responds with gratitude and suggests she go back and rest. The girl eats a sandwich. The girl says the food is delicious and asks if she's hungry. He explains that he's been working hard and wants to eat, and the guy says it's understandable. The girl says that tomorrow they will go to the labyrinth, and Mars says that these fun days will come to an end. He says the girl is looking at him and asks why. The man says he was just thinking and it tasted so good. Below, the man thanks her for coming, and the text says it's Labyrinth Exploration Day. Mars tells Count Beetle that this is the first time he's felt like they're being watched, and that the feeling is especially strong today. Count Beetle remains silent. Then Mars notices that it's happening again. The knight informs Mars that he's already taken care of the problem, and that Mars needs to focus on conquering the labyrinth. He says fine, as you say, and notes that something seems to be happening. He then says that conquering the labyrinth is more important now. The knight tells us to fight the enemies. The knight tells us to move forward. The knight says they'll stop here, and the rest is up to them. Mars says okay. Mars and the girl prepare for battle. A group of knights and a goblin watch them from above. He says that if he can't get out of this trap, he will die here. Then he says that he must find a way out, otherwise everything will end badly. The man says that he hired 200 mercenaries with his own money, who will easily deal with Count Beetle's knights, and says that he will stage a coup. A man with a glass asks if the report has arrived yet, then exclaims that the knights have been killed and speaks anxiously of mercenaries. In the center of the stage, a man on a throne laughs and declares that he will become the ruler of this city. The man speaks to Count Beetle. Count Beetle remains silent. The man makes the sound A. Mars and the girl exit the castle gates. A guard stands at the gate. The knight asks how things are in the labyrinth, and thanks him for his work. The knight reports that they're already finished and says that the two of them are simply amazing. Mars reports that Count Beetle has already returned home, so he shows his interlocutor out, to which the girl replies that this is good. He and the girl stand silently. The man says they returned alive, and he asks what's going on here. The man reports that while they were conquering the labyrinth, dames tried to stage a coup, but failed. The man reports that he had been buying up weapons and hiring a motley crew of mercenaries for a long time, often doing things that were completely outside his jurisdiction. The man explains that he had been keeping an eye on him and is glad to have thwarted his plans. The man reports that Dams Barker, the organizer of the coup, will be stripped of his baronial title and imprisoned, with orders to persuade him. The man speaks thus as two knights lead a bound man. A man thanks Mars and Clarice very much for conquering the maze. Mars and Clarice. He says they are heroes of their country. The man says that thanks to Mars' achievement, Rampart will now receive the title of Baron, and another man thanks him for this. The third man asks to give him an answer later, when he has decided. The man says he'll just consult with his family. The clock shows the time, and the man says they'll go then. A man asks Mars to stay with him today, and Mars says that it's good. He says, wow, pointing to the food on the table. The man says he's sorry about what Dams did, and the woman asks for forgiveness for spying on Mars. He explains that everything is fine. Mars says they'll get down to business now. The man drinks wine. The boy eats. The man says Mars Bryant is from the kingdom of Barkus. He says not to worry, he knows the other person isn't hostile. He asks if he's been exposed. Mars explains that Count Beetle tried to register him as an adventurer, but then he discovered he was already registered in the kingdom of Barkus, so he had to explain his current situation. The man says it doesn't look like he can be teleported back. Mars says he'll make sure he's returned. He says it will take about a week to prepare and says he will write a letter so they know they are safe. Mars says they got a lot of help. A man says that thanks to Mars their family was saved. Another man thanks Mars, and he says that he thanks them very much. Mars speaks to his mom and dad. Mars thanks them for everything. The girl says she will go with him and I start talking. Mars speaks to Clarice. The man says it looks like she wants to go with you. He says everything will be fine and he'll be back. The girl wipes away her tears. Mars says let's go. Then smiles and says, aha. The next panel shows a close-up of Mars' eye with a glistening tear. The guy says they're leaving. The man and woman say to keep an eye on Clarissa and stop by at least once in a while. Mars reports that the trip with Clarice went smoothly, and the girl says that before they got to this city, they ate shashlik. He says traveling is fun, and the girl agrees, saying it's even more fun with Mars. A man at a table with a group of people announces he has an urgent quest. The man says they need to find the escaped slave and reports that she ran away into the monster forest where they can't find her. The man says that this is some kind of special slave. The man remains silent. The man says she's an elf. Mars says he'll pay 100 gold for the task and ask someone to take it on. The man says the large reward is 130 gold pieces. He says it's time to leave. Mars says the monster forest is dangerous even for a B-rank group. The guy says that money is important, of course, but life is more important. The man says that life is more important. He stands nearby and listens. The man tells her to just forget about this slave, then remains silent. Mars and the girl walk side by side. He asks if he's ever seen elves. Clarice replies that she never has and asks, "And he?" He replies that he never has either. The girl says that they are now right next to the forest, and Mars silently holds the steering wheel. He says it looks like it. He reports that Count Beetle showed him a safe route, but wonders why they are driving on a road near such a dangerous monster. Mars says to watch. The man on the horse says it's an elf girl. The elf girl runs and speaks herself. The girl says it's a snake and has never seen one that big. The man says she's running towards them and says they'll hit her with the carriage. The man grips the handle of his whip. Mars says he will deal with the snake and orders Clarice to protect the girl. Clarice agrees. He strikes the snake's head with his sword. The snake opens its mouth wide and makes a sound. Mars deflects the blow of the giant snake with his hand and sword, and the girl runs away. He notices an approaching snake and expresses surprise. He jumps back sharply and then strikes the snake with his sword. He reports that the snake has venom. Mars says the wind blade doesn't work. He tells you that the enemy has higher stats than the Goblin King and will have to use stronger skills. Then he says the name of the skill, Eye of Heaven. He shouts to Clarice. Mars reports that the snake is releasing poison from its mouth and warns to be careful, and the man asks to buy him time. Mars says she understands. He says we need to hold out a little longer. The man with the sword stands with his back turned. A girl with a spear attacks a large snake. Mars is concentrating on preparing a fireball and a vortex of air in his hands. A man in uniform quickly approaches a huge snake. A girl with fire in her hand notices the snake's sudden movement and expresses surprise. He says there's not much left. He says there's just a little bit left. The girl screams that there isn't. Mars expresses surprise. Mars is focused on preparing for an attack, holding fire and a whirlwind in his hands. He says he uses firestorm. Mars says he's tired and the girl says wow. The guy asks if it was barrier magic and says the girl saved him. The girl replies that it was a desperate move, but she succeeded. Mars asks where the elf is. The girl says she hid her in the carriage. Mars says that's understandable. Mars and the girl ask if the elf is safe. The elf asks for the merchant to be returned to her. He says they're not going to bring the girl back. The girl, sitting on the floor, says she doesn't want to and won't come back. She asks if this is true, and he confirms it is. The girl, with tears in her eyes, repeats that it is true. The girl says she can't believe Mars actually came. Mars explains he came to help. He explains that he is upset, and the girl cries, clinging to him. The guy says that he came. Mars asks the name of the person he's talking to, and the girl replies that her name is Misha. He asks the girl if she'll tell him what happened, and she agrees. The girl says that the man said he'd take her to her mother, but in reality he kidnapped her. Mars announces that they will find the girl's mother together, who says she wants to go to her mother. The girl thanks him, saying thank you. The girl cries and says they just saved her, expressing her deep gratitude. The man says, "It's decided." The girl says she needs to wash it first. The guy says it's great. Mars speaks earth magic while simultaneously creating a large circular barrier of earth. A girl with ponytails watch him. He says water magic, then fire magic. He announces that the bathroom is ready. The girl and woman look at the bathroom. Mars says he can't understand what's going on. The girl says the dress is a little too big for her, but it's okay and calls it cute. He thanks her. The man tells her to get moving before it gets dark. The sounds of the wind can be heard over the rooftops of houses. The man reports that the city that Count Beetle asked to be avoided clearly has no place for children. Mars says he's in the monster forest, the city, and the surrounding area. The man asks Mars if he's a knight's apprentice and offers to sell him his sword for 10 gold, calling it a masterpiece, but expressing doubt that it's not a scam. The guy says he doesn't have any money on him, and the woman says not to miss this chance. Mars says it's okay. The man says he can't run away from such good fortune. Mars explains he'd like to take a quest and see if there's somewhere to spend the night, to which the man replies there are no quests. 2 men are sitting at a table. The girl tells Mars that the hotel is across the street, and he thanks her. Mars reports that he is being followed. The man says that he is a kid. The man says that here he is. He calls him a swindler. Mars says he can't let such opportunities pass him by and apologizes for not buying. The man yells that Mars isn't listening. Several men then try to grab Mars, but he confidently fights them off and jumps away. He takes a running fall, then somersaults in the air. The man with the sword strikes the other man, who falls backward, while the 2 men watch the action. 2 men say it's moving well and will sell for a lot at auction, and that it's a big win. Mars asks what an auction is and what it's all about. The man with the sword tells them not to resist, so the 2 girls they found nearby won't be lonely. He tells them to return to Clarice quickly. Mars speaks to Clarice and Misha. Clarice hugs Misha and says their names. The man says he'll be obedient and asks to meet them. The man says okay. The man explains it's a great move and calls the guy a good boy. The man puts a helmet on Mars. 2 men tell Hyde that they have brought him, and one of them says that it is excellent merchandise. The man says that the night auction will be great and says that they did a good job, and Mars notes that this is their boss. The man at the table orders the boy taken to the room, and the man next to him agrees. The man at the door invites them in, warning them not to touch the girls or point fingers. A girl and a woman call Mars. The man asks if they are okay and if they are injured. Mars replies that they are handling the goods well. The man says that is understandable, at least something good. The girl apologizes for getting caught, and he says it's no big deal. The girl admits she's scared, and he explains he got caught to save them. He tells her everything will be fine. The girl says she will save them. Mars says that together they will find her mother and asks her to be patient for a little while. The girl agrees. A man in a black t-shirt says that we need to go out. The man says that criminals are being held here and explains that they won't be able to escape. Mars says he doesn't intend to kill them, and the girl explains that they will live here until they atone for their sins. The man says their weapons just need to find a way. The man explains that they're weapons. The guy says the Hida Trading Company auction is starting and thanks them for waiting. The guy says that today is the best auction they've ever had. The man says to stay until the very end, and the other man says that they will start with the first item. The man says he's a former baron from the kingdom of Zarkum, explains that he's a former aristocrat and can read and write, and sets a starting price of 1 gold piece. He says he expects cheers. Mars says it's a joke, and the men respond that they don't need such trash and demand the following. The man apologizes for the miscalculation and says that he will immediately show the highlight of his program. He says to take a look. Mars says the boy has golden eyes, is flawless, and very disciplined. The starting price is 50 gold. The girl says the other girl has clear skin, shiny silver hair, and crystal blue eyes, and that once you see her, you'll never be able to take your eyes off her. The host announces that they will begin with the ladies and gentlemen, after which the men raise their hands for bets. The masked man announces the bets: 200 gold for the elf, 150 for the girl, and 100 for the boy. He says that the offer for all 3 is 800 gold. The masked man raises the bet. A girl says she's scared. A man in the crowd yells at her to perform. The girl continues to say she's scared. The man in the crowd insists she go on stage. Mars says he is. The man announces he's betting 10,000 gold pieces for all three of them and says he likes the girl. The man explains that the elf seemed intimidated by the way they were betting. The girl asks if anyone else is willing to bid more, and the crowd is surprised by the 10,000 gold piece bet. The man announces that he sold it for 10,000 gold, congratulates everyone, and urges them not to retreat. The man shouts for them to stop. The man declares that this elf is his. The man says that Hyde took what belongs to him and shouts Hyde's name. The man with glasses says take her away, and the man with short hair orders them to stop. A man with a beard and a beret shouts Haida, while a group of men with guns stands nearby. Mars, wearing a mask, shouts Heed, while a group of men with guns stands behind him, smiling. A ninja attacks a man with a knife who parries the blow. A man with a staff strikes another man. He reports an ice missile fired at the opponents, who dodge. A man with a sword prepares to attack, and he watches. Mars reports that a battle has broken out here. A fierce fight is taking place on the stage between several men with weapons, accompanied by the sounds of blows and clashes. He and the man scream at the same time. A masked man yells that they need to run, another masked man asks what the hell, and the group of masked men starts running. Mars says no one is paying attention to them anymore. The man with the sword says they're going to take the boy and the girls. The man in handcuffs says, he explains that he has freed himself and simultaneously fights off the man's attack. The man is surprised and asks how he freed himself. Mars says everything is fine and suggests they leave, and the girl agrees. The masked man shouts that the boy is trying to escape. Mars notices the pain in his eyes and asks if everything is okay. The man decides to take the sword. A man with a gun says someone needs to get them. A man in a mask and with a sword prepares for battle. On stage right, a man at the podium laughs, and two people stand nearby. The man laughs and says he hasn't had this much fun fighting in a long time, and Mars says he's at his limit. The man says goodbye and leaves. The man fights another man and says he's done. The man says he could find someone who can resist his sleep magic. The man says he's so big, but weak. The man says they are useless bastards. The man asks, in that case, Mars asks if it's okay if they can never fight again, to which the man replies, of course not. The man asks for and receives a pouch. The man says he won't touch anyone who runs away, gives them 5 seconds to think, and warns that if they stay, they should start praying. The other men comment that he seems strong. 2 men in the vanguard block the enemy's movement. The man reports that the mage is currently preparing a spell. The man explains that the latter is protecting the mage while he is defenseless. The man says that's how it is. The man explains that if he were a monster, it might work. The man slams his baton onto the floor. The man with long hair screams in panic. The man with the baton abruptly knocks the object away. The men look at each other in surprise. A man with a sword asks where 2 men approaching him are looking. A man says he will cover and order an attack on the enemy. Another man confirms this with the word, yeah. A man with a sword turns sharply, noticing the danger, while another man with a knife prepares to attack. The man with the knife strikes, while the man with the sword parries the attack. In close-up, the man with the knife looks on with fury and tension. The man throws out 2 opponents along with their swords. The man reports that he destroyed the entire group in an instant. The man says the word damn repeatedly. A man screams, a man fights, a guy screams in horror. Mars deals a powerful blow to the enemy. He reports that the quest to Ghetto is complete. The masked man shouts where they're running and warns them to run from the monster. The mustachioed man laughs. He and the 2 men are surprised. The mustachioed man lies on the ground in a pool of blood, with a broken tile nearby. The man reports that there is still a boy like that left. The man expresses surprise. The man says it's interesting. Mars says that he'd even hires children like that. On stage right, a man with a sword stands near the curtain, and 2 girls are talking nearby. A little to the left, a bird flies toward the stage, where 3 people react in surprise. Bottom right, he says he doesn't want to end up like them, addressing the man in the cloak with. Mars says he won't do anything if the enemy moves away. The man explains he doesn't like hurting children and demands he get out of the way, shouting that it's not a request. Mars notices the eyes reappearing, and the man orders him to leave. He says that this is an illusion. The man says, "Is it really him?" Mars and the man react with surprise to what was said. He says he sees the future. The man looks at him silently. Mars says he's already dodged his attack twice and explains that it can't be an accident. The man asks who he is. He asks if they will let him go if he says something and then says no. Mars says he can't believe this happened and says it's impossible. The man says he's interested and won't let it go. He reports that these are the highest stats he's ever seen. Kurt Weehaw's stats appear: HP 260 to 260, MP 106 to 106, Strength 135, Flexibility 132, Magic Power 32. Mars speaks quickly. The man strikes with a large sword. The man says he is not going to give up and he says he will not back down either. Mars says he won't dodge. The man strikes. A man strikes with a club, he fights back with a sword. He says the sword is very heavy. Mars delivers a powerful blow to a man who tries to dodge it. The man tells Mars that he has amazing talent. The man continues to advance, and Mars quickly retreats. The man says that such talent is wasted in Mars. He says he has never met such talented young men and asks why the man is helping a slave trader. Mars tells me what to do: run away from him. The man asks why Mars uses his power like that. He says he doesn't know how to save Clarice and Misha. The man accuses Mars of deceiving and kidnapping Misha, a poor elven girl, and asks if he's ashamed of it. The girl orders the man to stay back. Mars asks the name of the interlocutor. The man asks what kind of attack that was, noting that it was clearly not fencing, and adds that attack. He says that his name is he. The man says they've suddenly become friends. The man asks for an elven child to be brought to him. The man turns around abruptly. The guy quickly removes his feet from under the chair. The man falls face down on the floor. A man with a mustache screams. A man in a mask says he is screaming. The man in the mask inhales sharply and turns around. The man in the mask stands indoors and looks up. A man with a bat and Mars with a sword stand opposite each other. Mars is surprised and says, "What's going on?" The man says she's already here. He's surprised. The woman tells Sasha that this man isn't an enemy. Mars informs him that the world's most powerful people gather at this school and says he came on the recommendation of the course. The man tells Mars to go to Lister's National School. A man shouts, asking if he remembered. He thanks her. A girl with children calls for her mother. He changes his expression from sad to angry and moves forward. The girl screams Misha, the girl screams Mom. The girl says she misses him a lot. Mars says he missed him a lot too. The girl and Mars hug. The guy says his mom is sad. He says yes, but everything is okay now. Mars says that everything is fine now and he will never leave the girl again, hugging her. The girl explains that because of Mars he says he's not afraid, and the girl explains that it's good. He says he can breathe freely now and smiles. The girl says the work was good. Mars thanks her. In the upper right corner, it says they were invited to the place where Sasha is currently staying. In the center right corner, he says they were helped. In the upper left corner, he says they told everyone what happened. In the lower left corner, he asks if they are hungry. Mars says you need to eat your fill. A man reports that this city of Ganal has literally become a hotbed of crime, and another man reports that Sasha told him about it. Mars explains that it's too dangerous for children, and the man reveals that the graffiti warned them to avoid the area. The woman explains that she understands it's not enough, but she spent a lot of money searching for Misha. The man says it's his gratitude for everything they've done. The woman thanks him from the bottom of her heart for saving Misha and asks him to let her thank him properly. He says that this is enough and that they are very happy to meet Misha. The guy says goodbye to Misha and says he'll miss her. The girl says see you later. The girl says goodbye to Clarissa and Mars. The girl and the child thank him for everything. The remaining shots show a carriage with horses approaching the castle and traveling along a mountain road. The image contains no text or speech, only houses. The man asks if they have 2 spare rooms. Mars says, yeah. The girl suggests staying in the same room today. He says that the beds are separate anyway. The girl says she can't believe Mars has actually come. Mars says he has come. He tells Clarice to go to the bath first. Clarice explains that she's been taking quite a long time in the bath and suggests that Mars go first. Mars says he's a gentleman after all and invites the ladies to go first. The girl says that people who call themselves gentlemen are suspicious. He laughs. He says that he and the girl end up in the same room. The girl explains that nothing bad will happen because they have separate beds, and says that it's safer together than alone, and that she would be scared if she were kidnapped again, and it's also more economical. The girl gets into the bathtub. The girl says she wants to get a little closer to him. Mars tells her that the crystal is shining somewhere near the family. Then he notices it and is surprised. He says he'll be stepping away for a bit because his family is nearby. Clarice tells Mars to wait. Mars says they've come to pick him up and asks who it is. Mars calls out to his father and Ike, and the man calls Mars by name. He says that if he doesn't return, they should wait for him. The man explains that if he doesn't return, he will consider him dead. Clarice reveals that she is Clarice Lambard. Zeke says he read about Clarice in a letter and introduces himself as Mars's father. Ike says he is Mars's brother and it's nice to meet you. A guy suggests chatting over food. A woman brings dishes to the table. Mars and the girl sit at the table. He and the girl are eating shashlik. The guy is chewing the shashlik. The man is drinking from a mug. The man says they talked about the battle with the hellish snake in the demon forest, about Misha and Sasha, and about the auction, and the girl says it was over food. The man explains that this is exactly how it happened. The man says he's proud of Mars and calls him a good boy. The man asks if Mars took everything with him. The man says let's go home. He replies yes. The man holds back the reins of the horse, which begins to rear. On the right page, 2 guards with halberds stand at the castle gates, through which a horse-drawn carriage passes. On the left page, a bridge and road leading to the castle are depicted. Mars tells that in the center of the forest there is a castle surrounded by a dark cloud and lightning, and that one must not enter it. In the right panel, a man announces he caught something and shows off his catch. In the left panel, he and the boy give thumbs-up approval, and the girl says it was fun. The man in front smiles. The girl says she's treating a horse. The horse sighs and lifts its front legs. Against the backdrop of the setting sun, a man rides in a horse-drawn cart. The cart then approaches the fortress gates. Finally, the cart moves away from the fortress toward the mountains. The image contains no text or speech, only images of buildings and a moving object. The man reports that they've arrived. The girl tells Mars. Mars greets them and says he's glad to see them home. The woman shouts, He and the girl smile. The woman hugs Mars and says welcome back. He says he's home and apologizes for making her worry. The girl hugs the woman tightly. The girl tells her brother she's glad he's back. Mars says she's home and that he's grown a lot. The woman reveals her name is Maria Bryant and that she's Mars's mother. Maria asks if the girl is Clarice. Clarice Lambard says it's nice to meet you, and the woman comments on her excellent manners. The woman begins speaking, addressing the group. Mars and the man say welcome back and greet Clarice. Clarice returns the greeting. The man asks Maria to help Clarissa get settled in. Maria agrees, and he thanks Maria. The woman says it might feel a bit strange here at first, but Mars will get used to it. Mars says it's good. The girl says she's glad to meet you, sister. Lena says she's glad too. Mars reports that Lena really likes Clarice. Mars washes Clarice's hair, and she laughs. Mars puts Clarice to bed. The man says that his brother Ike was absorbed in his studies, and he says that he helped his father with his work. The inscription states that a month has passed. The man explains that Count Carmel has asked him to clear the Almeria labyrinth of monsters, and instructs them to explore the labyrinth. Mars says yes. The building's backdrop features the name Almeria. Inside, a group of people are standing in line. The man says hey. The man with the high ponytail explains that even though Mars is a kid, He has good gear and asks if he stole it. He reports that they have obtained equipment from chests in the labyrinth. The man says that he must then prove his abilities and warns that if he is not strong enough, he will take his equipment. Mars strikes the long-haired man with his sword, causing him to fall backward. Mars looks forward with a determined expression. The long-haired man looks up. In the upper right corner, a guy falls to the ground, surrounded by people. In the center right, he says it's been a while, and a man asks how Count Brian is doing. In the lower right, a man says that Father asked us to clear the monsters in the labyrinth, and the guy says hello. In the lower left, people are discussing. Mars, the girl, and the guy say yes, of course. The man thanks her for helping with the cleanup. There are no speech bubbles or text in the image, and the characters do not speak. The birds fly in front of a stone arch. The boy warns them not to let their guard down. Mars informs them that silver birds are D-rank. Mars shoots a bow at a bird. The boy fends off the bird's attack with a spear. The girl says it's impossible. The guy says they can't just give up. He explains they need to find a way out of this situation. The man says that it is impossible to take everything, and Mars says how to take these magical stones. The man says they'll go home and talk to Dad. He then explains that the problem is that there are too many magic stones, so they can't collect them all, and says they'll go buy a slave. The man asks if they are looking for someone with high agility and strength as a porter and suggests considering a beastman slave, saying he would not mind. The man says they'll come this way then. A group of people walks down a long corridor with many doors and balconies, where people stand on watch. Mars and the girl look ahead, following the others. He explains that they are quite wary. The man says that this is because the beastmen do not recognize anyone as their masters. The man says that in this room there are rooms of different sizes. Mars says that in this room. The guy reports that one of the 12 dukes of the former Lister Alliance is Duke Saran's, a representative of the beastmen. Mars reports that Count Carmel sold him at an exorbitant price, and he bought him, but Duke Saran said he would not submit to anyone weaker than him. He explains that the Count was exiled in a coup d'état. He says he can't understand why his body has changed so much and reports that he can now do things that were previously impossible. Mars announces that he has activated the Heaven's Eye. Mars then punches the man and woman, causing them to notice the explosion and express surprise. The guy says he can't believe he's actually here and says he's not going to give up. He explains he means no harm and asks not to shoot. The man with the covered face says he can't let Mars go. Mars says he's not going to give up and states that his strength is far greater than his opponent's. The man explains that he's not going to give in and is ready to continue the fight. He says it's clairvoyance, then is thrown back as a shirtless man runs towards him. Mars says it's bad. There's no evasion. Mars announces a barrier. Mars makes a sound and prepares to attack. He says that if he gets hit now, Clarice will be in trouble and shouts her name. The guy warns that Clarice will be in trouble. The man hits the wall behind which Clarice is hard. The guy says it's lightning magic. Mars asks why the guy attacked him so suddenly. He says that the interlocutor tried to look at his skills. The man notices that Mars was trying to study him and says he was trying to scare him. Mars apologizes. He says his name is Bryant. The man asks if he doesn't mind if he can give his name. Mars tells Burns Leo that he's going to use the assessment again and asks if he minds. Burns replies that he doesn't care. The man thanks him. He says it's truly impressive. A window appears with Burns Leo's stats. He has 320 out of 320 health, 20 out of 20 mana, 306 strength, 5 magic power, 278 durability, 250 flexibility, 45 agility, and 1 luck. Mars says they're looking for a slave. The guy asks if he's finished. He says he doesn't submit to someone weaker than him. The man on the left says he won't go without her. He says that maybe he's interested in someone else, and the guy replies, but the man with horns says he can inspect everyone, to which the man with ears agrees. The man with glasses says the guy is cool. The man with horns says the kid is quite the man, and the woman with ears says he could be her master. The man asks if the boys are all right, to which 3 reply that they are. One man reveals that he is Yage's eldest son. Another man explains that he is Orus' youngest son, And the third man explains that he is Mac's middle son, and they all introduce themselves as the three Black Wolf brothers. Ray says her name is Ray and it's nice to meet you. Misa says her name is Misa and it's nice to meet you too. The man says it's time to go. The girl asks the man if he minds if they eat at the same table. The man replies, "Is it possible otherwise?" The woman says they need to learn to communicate more respectfully. The man says fine. Mars says there's nothing to worry about today. The guy says that starting tomorrow Ike will decide and says okay. The man says that now they will discuss their duties as slaves. The man says they shouldn't harm them and will move to Urguzia in 3 years. The man with cat ears says that after moving in, he wanted to take the three of them to the dungeon. The man with cat ears explains that Ray and Misa will be servants in the house. The text block says that after dinner, they decided where everyone would sleep. The guy says they'll start preparing tomorrow. The boy asks Mr. Dinike what they should do next, and he replies that he'll decide what to do after he sees their abilities. The man explains that they've become E-rank adventurers. The man explains that they need to defeat them first. The stone lizard gives its stats: 100 HP, 5 MP, 50 attack power, 1 magic power, 30 stamina, 30 agility, 10 flexibility, and 1 luck. Guy Jet and OL Jet reports its stats as 158 HP, 5 MP, 70. The guy says he will show them his strength and rushes forward with 2 other guys. Mars says he's not going to give up, even if it costs him his life, and declares he'll fight to the end. The man with sharp teeth explains that people like him are the real fighters. Mars explains that he's not afraid of death and is ready to accept any outcome. 3 guys are running towards 3 dinosaurs. The guy on the right punches the dinosaur in the face, and the guy on the left kicks the dinosaur in the head. The guy headbutts the lizard. The lizard roars, and the guy pounds the ground with his fists. The guy lifts his leg and slams it hard into the ground. The guy stands on the lizard, preparing for his next move. The man says that 1 missed blow is a death sentence. Mars delivers a powerful kick, shattering the stone slab. The guy falls to the floor, then tries to get up using his hands and feet. After that, he says his back hurts and remains silent. The guy asks how they are, if he'll praise them. Mars says it's no good. The guy says, well, the man with the cat ears demands to know the reason, and the man with the scar and black hair expresses surprise. The man says to start by treating them. Mars says okay. A boy with cat ears stands with his hands behind his back. A man with his hands on his head says he heard that people who wield sacred magic grow quickly. A large man with cat ears explains what sacred magic is used for. A man with spiky hair smiles, holding a light. Mars tells him she's 8 years old. The man asks if Mars's large breasts are due to sacred magic. The 3 men are shocked. The woman explains that this is sexual harassment and calls the man a stupid brother. A woman and a man with cat ears apologize, and the man says everything is fine. The man explains that he'll now tell them why this is no good. The man with the spear asks them to watch. The man with the spear shouts fire and releases a stream of fire. The boy delivers a powerful spear strike to the shield-headed creature, piercing it through. The man asks if they understand the difference. Mars explains that they don't know how to use magic. The man explains that the main strategy of the battle is this. The guy says that they are putting too much force into it and explains that they need to conserve their strength to continue exploring after the battle, and also asks how they are going to explore the labyrinth if they get injured. The man says to think about it next time and fight together, the 3 of them. The guy says okay. The man says now let's see how they use their heads. The man says to block the attack, then says to immobilize it. On the right is a grizzly bear with the following stats. HP 164 out of 164, MP 4 out of 4, attack power 84, magic power 1, stamina 82, agility 50, flexibility 1, luck 1. A guy with ears jumps and kicks the large beast, telling him to finish it off. A man with short dark hair asks how it went. The guy gives a thumbs up and says everything's fine. The man with sharp teeth and ears says they're ready, and the man with cat ears and the man with closed eyes and ears confirm it. Mars says they'll go up to the 2nd floor and then go home. A group of people look up in surprise and tension. He says he didn't know there would be an anthill on the second floor and reports that there are too many of them here. The guy says he needs to warn the guild. The man tells Ralph urgent news, and Ralph says he's listening. The man says that this is Margrave Evan. Sorum says he's glad to meet you. A man says it's time to move on to the news. He reports that numerous monster insects have been discovered on the second floor and asks if they're killer ants. Another man repeats the name killer ants. Mars and the guy explain that they're monsters that devour everything around them. The man says that if the enemy's numbers continue to grow, the labyrinth won't be able to support them anymore, and asks what to do. The man is silent. He and the boy listen in silence. The other man sweats and remains silent. The man asks what they would do. Mars remains silent. He says he would summon 3 C-rank groups from Georgia: Brown Shield, Blue Fangs, and Red Wings. The man says they need to call all the city's best adventurers together. He explains that he would then convince the Beastman slaves to join. Mars says the most important thing is that Mr. Burns's participation is absolutely necessary. Ralph says they will fight with all their might. He also tells them to contact Viscount Bryant immediately. The text explains that, having heard of Burns's strength, Ralph agreed to this plan. The next day, the man announces that it's time to begin. The armored men represent the Brown Shield. The image shows a group of 6 people, from right to left. A woman announces the name of the group, Blue Fangs. From right to right, a man announces the name of the group, Red Wings. The next man and a young man stand silently nearby. On the left, a man looks ahead with a grin.